In my eyes, the way everything was affecting me, it all started with the Anthony Padilla video, and then going on and just putting on a show. I'm sorry.
It's okay, don't be sorry. That's why you're here. You're here to talk about this and to feel these feelings. But let me know if you want to stop for whatever reason. It's all
trying very hard to stay in the body.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
If you need to take a moment, totally cool.
I'm watching, sorry.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable talking about the ID? Yeah? Do you want...
I can answer the question.
All right. I'll ask the one that I just asked, Kyle.
Okay. And Dissociated made her first video, which for the most part I thought was a good video. Except for the one part where Trisha's like, oh, she just looked like a crazy person, and then like stops and like looks at the camera.
I watched the Anthony Padilla one, and there's a girl, Dissociadid or something, I think his name, she's British, and like I watched it and I was like, oh, like she seems crazy, but I know that's like what
I knew that she called me crazy at some point in this video. I didn't know when. So yeah, that actually hurt more than I thought it was going to, even though I knew she, at some point in this video she called me crazy. Please don't do that to people.
Oh, that hurt a lot more than I thought it would, or whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. You know, maybe it did. That feels a little played up, but that's just an assumption on my part. Then the whole Nan thing happened, and oh boy.
We're taking a break from our break to address what's going on with Team Pinata. When the images first started coming out, we wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we did, but now that there's more information and more things that have been leaked that we absolutely can't endorse, it's not okay. We didn't know about any of this stuff, so obviously it's a shock, and we can't endorse or support it. It's not okay, and obviously we are very shocked and hurt and betrayed, and I don't know what's going to happen going forward, so please respect our privacy, and we're so sorry that we didn't know. Please stay safe, everybody. Bye.
Some of the bigger name systems like me spoke up about it. But then, yeah, like in the background, Nin keeps defending Pinata, and we're like, you need to stop. We were talking about it we had a call to talk about it, about the entitled to life thing, because it affected us all. You know, because this is someone we were going to be living with for a weekend, and we were like, okay, let's discuss this, let's get all our feelings and whatever, and she's like, we shouldn't be talking about this, let's not talk about this. You know, we were like, you know, what should we say publicly? She's like, don't say anything publicly, like, shut it down. And we were like, no. No, this isn't something that just gets brushed under the rug.
Anyway, they were in the front seat, and it was us and Dissociated in the back seat, except that it was Kai that was fronting, and Nia at the time. You know, they were just having flirty banter or whatever. You know how Kai is, Adam. But yeah, so they were just, you know, having flirty banter, whatever. Nothing explicit or anything like that, right? And it can even be like seen at the start of the live stream. Is that Kai had he'd whispered something in Nina's ear, or in Chloe's ear, because Nina was still around. And, you know, admittedly as well, you know, he was kind of just wanting her to come back out so they could just continue their flirty banter, which you shouldn't do, and he's acknowledged that, and I acknowledge that now, that it was poor form. You know, you shouldn't try and pull alters back out, because that's not right. So he was doing that, and you can see at the start of the stream, Chloe turns around to him, and what Kai remembers was to the effect of, you guys need to, stop that, or stop trying to bring her back out, was what was said, right?
She said, Kai kept touching me. During the whole live stream, he was touching my legs and coming onto me and whispering in my ear for Nina.
Dissociatid's account of things is that Kai had been trying to seduce Nina, or had been whispering dirty things in her ear, and had been touching her legs, basically. He only found out about this the other day, so his trying to, rummage through his own memory of just being like, well, what happened, did I overstep, was this not, any non-consensual touching or anything like that? So he's just like, maybe I did put my hand on her knee, or put my hand on her leg. I think it was consensual if I did do that. Anyway, but he apologized to her, for, just the other day, as in before the racism discussion, he was just like, hey, sorry if I overstepped, not wanting to discount what you said about that, because that's a dick move or whatever, although this isn't how my recollection of events is, I acknowledge that I overstepped.
So I wander upstairs, and I'm stood outside the toilet waiting, and then she said, after you left, or after everyone left, he came on to me on the sofa, and it only took Jade coming out and screaming, get off me, for him to finally get off her.
But apparently there was more to the story, that that he had effectively, to some degree, had pinned her to the couch or something like that. And he was just like, wait, what? Because he found out about that part of the story after having had apologized, and he's like, okay, I've spent the whole entire day, feeling guilty and feeling bad, which again, people who are perpetrators, I'm not saying that shouldn't have happened, but when he heard that other part of the story, he was just like, I don't think I overstepped on the other stuff, because that other stuff also didn't happen. Because when he heard about that last bit, he was just like, wait, what the yes, that there was, consensual flirty banter or whatever, and yes, there was, the potential, because again, memory is, there was a potential knee touch, but there was no running anyone's hands up and down a thigh, anything like that. There was no pinning to a couch, anything like that.
I dropped Axos to the bus, and it was a little out at the time, and they missed the bus, and I decided to bring them home. And it was in my head what Chloe had said, but I'd never felt uncomfortable around them. I'd never thought that they could have ever done that. I really, in my head, thought that it was something that was misinterpreted. And, I say this because, I want to emphasize that I felt safe enough to take Axos home with me and take them back to my house and let them sleep there, I don't know what happened. I can only share what my experience is of the sleepover, but I didn't feel like Axos were dangerous, and that put a little concern in my eyes of Chloe,
I don't want to gaslight anyone, but also that did not happen. Yeah, so it's this fear that saying something about this will make us, and probably others that, have spoken out or anything like that, seem as though we're bullying them or anything like that, because that's not Like, 'cause there's a big distinction between bullying someone and calling someone out for problematic behaviour in a...
She would tell me all the time that she loved me, she was here for me, and all this stuff. But I had so many bad close calls with things, you know, and I'd messaged her as my best friend going, hey, I need you right now. I'm not in a good place, and I'm silly. And I'd get nothing. I would get no response. I would get nothing for... She wouldn't answer my calls, nothing, you know. And then maybe days later, I'd get a message saying, oh, were you okay? And I'm like, no, I wasn't. You could have missed that. You could have... If I didn't have other people, luckily I message someone else and they reply. But it's like, if she was my only lifeline and she keeps saying, I'm here for you, and she never was, you know, that's it. It could have been a wrong choice, you know, because she never answered. So I just stopped trying. You know, people reaching out to me like, is she okay? Because she's been doxxed, is she okay? And I'm like, she's not gonna freaking answer me. She didn't answer me when I called for her help. Why is she gonna answer me now? I realized that she probably only became friends with me because I could get her to the sleepover. And, you know, that's what took it off, you know. Once I was no longer, I was gone, you know.
Yeah, but we're just basically, we're not friends anymore, basically, is the long and the short of it. Yeah, there's just been some disagreements, I guess, between the two of us, and yeah, I just kind of ended that friendship, to be completely honest.
You know, they used me. They hurt me a lot. You know, and I've had to carry a lot for a long time because they were so praised. They could do no wrong, neither of them.
A friend just sent us this. While I appreciate the neutrality of this video massively, this was a hard way to find out that a private and re-traumatizing experience was made public, when we haven't even felt comfortable enough telling our own close friends about what had happened. Here's our memory of it. Axolotls, an acquaintance who we had just met, was repeatedly trying to trigger out Nina, a sexual alter, when they knew Chloe was fronting, whispering sexual things in Chloe's ear, only addressing Nina and using her name, ignoring that Chloe was there at all. And despite multiple requests to stop, they didn't. This continued for at least an hour, including touching our legs and whispering, no matter how firmly and seriously we told them to stop. We eventually managed to get a mutual friend alone to tell them what was happening and that we felt uncomfortable. The fact that our no's and requests for them to stop were being ignored, as well as invasion of personal space, was starting to get triggering. We have never used the phrase sexual assault in regards to this, and only told the people there so that they could help us keep our distance from them by sitting next to us and helping us leave a day early. This story makes us feel very vulnerable and is now being used to gaslight us. People are claiming we made it up, and something extremely private is now public information. We feel violated and sickened. There was no need to share this. During the sleepover last year, pre-integration Nina and I had been flirting after drinks. I understand that before the live stream, this banter perhaps became too flirty, and I'm genuinely sorry for triggering you in any way. You do not need to accept my apology. I just wanted to offer it because it hadn't been brought up until now that I made you feel unsafe and uncomfortable. Kai. That's sweet of you to apologize, Kai. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I don't hold anything against you at all. An apology 100% accepted. We should have talked to you about it ourselves, but we're a bit shaken and sick at the time of the sleepover. I'd actually forgotten that happened, and have no ill will at all. Who brought this up with you? Nin. This isn't accurate. Multiplicity and me had already decided not to do the interview when Dissociadid tried their luck. Hi. That wasn't the case, I'm afraid. In a real nutshell, we'd been working with Anthony's casting company for a couple of weeks, completed interview, etc. Originally, they got back and said they didn't realize we were in the UK and weren't sure if they had the budget to fly us out there and put us up, but that they'd love to work with us. We then said it's okay, we could give that opportunity to another system in the US, and let them give an opportunity to another system out there. After all, awareness is a community effort. We figured they'd pick someone more well-known, but instead, word got back that someone who was selected identified as an endogenic plural. We wrote back to the casting agents just to update them, and said if needs must be met, because it was so last minute, we would be happy to come over and use our own funds and/or suggest other systems. We suggested they either make a separate video to discuss endogenic multiplicity, but they said they wanted one on DID. When I mentioned I could come via my own means, they agreed and said a producer would call us to discuss our next steps. But again, for our side, our certainty was never there for a couple of reasons. 1, we had just gotten over a stomach virus. 2, we were worried about taking more time off from work due to that. 3, we never left baby alone a night, so we honestly weren't sure that we could. The casting agent didn't know that, but that phone call was to discuss potentials, and obviously potential also to offer that to another system. We shared this in the group chat we were a part of with Nin, who reached out to the same casting agent. The casting agent politely responded that Multiplicity and me were handling it, and that the producers were calling us. We waited the weekend, had a message from Anthony asking us for recommended sources on DID, etc. After speaking to him lately, it turns out he didn't know we were originally cast, as his agents dealt with that, so he was just reaching out from his own research, and reached out to the casting agency's IG page with our number once again, in case it wasn't received from the agent, which they then replied they would pass this on and for us to enjoy our interview. Needless to say, Ollie, who was a huge fan of Anthony's, was very excited, but he knew that for us, at least, this may not be feasible. We continued to wait, but didn't get a phone call. Instead, Nin sent a screenshot of an email she'd received from them confirming everything we were supposed to get confirmation of. When we asked her, she said, when the scout wrote back that we were dealing with it, she found an alternative email address to someone in the team and wrote to them instead, saying all the things we'd said about funding our own travel, etc. Although never speaking to or interviewing prior, they were given that email, maybe because they had more subs, maybe it was mistaken identity. Either way, Anthony later said he had communication issues with that casting agency and no longer works with them. It's not his fault, and we really don't want any bad sent his way. He was ever so kind to reach out, simply just to ask for our opinions and advice before interviewing, which was so kind. We really don't want him being blamed or harassed about any of this. The outcome of all of this was the principle of that decision to make was taken from us, from someone who we thought was a good friend to us. When Ollie confronted them, they said it was just business. When we spoke to Pinata, they said it had been a, quote, quiet winter financially. I hope this clears things up. I really did fear speaking up, and still do. We felt like the rug was taken from under our feet. I know it's a personal issue, but it honestly really affected us, due to Ollie never feeling betrayed before. We'd carried it, awaiting an apology for so long. And I guess that when that didn't come, and Nin said she was no longer involved in the community, we just wanted to let it go, get our closure, and get it off our chest. Not ever did we want any hate sent anyone's way, but it was just to say, hey, this was a pretty disappointing thing to happen, and it hurt us. And all we were looking for was a little sympathy, accountability, and an apology. We just had to find our own way of tying up those loose ends. I don't know if this was the best option, but honestly, now we've spoken up, we've been able to let go, and that's been so freeing. They told us we had to apologize to them for blindsiding them by asking them for an apology to begin with. They knew how much we at least wanted that opportunity to decide for ourselves. They knew we'd put in hard work. They knew we wanted it to go to another smaller system if possible, with the time constraints. We already had lots of media bits out there. It didn't have to be us, but the fact that our decision was removed and Nin sought out another way to get in despite being told by the agent that they were handling it, it just felt very unfriend-like. I really don't want this blowing up anywhere, and I just want the community to rest. This was just to clarify a few points, and I hope it'll do just that. Thank you for hearing me, and I'm just so sorry to anyone for any issues caused by us sharing any of this. We just wanted our own closure. We now feel heard and hope that everyone can find their own closure too.